Alrighty, welcome to the Grow Pair podcast. And today I have got two guests that I am really stoked to have in. It's Chris and Delano from Stonebridge Debt Management. And this is a controversial subject today because they do debt review. And right now you just switched off. So don't switch off. Keep listening. We're going to get down to some really in-depth questions and answers around debt review and how it works in South Africa and whether it can help you or if it's just a big scam. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Desmond. How are you?
Lekker, man. How are you guys doing?
Good. Friday evening. Has to be good.
Long day.
Good day, but yeah, it's as weekend times.
Yes. So just before we started, we were chatting a bit, and Chris, you mentioned that there's a good chance that 80% of your industry are a bunch of scallums. And if you go and look on YouTube or if you go look on TikTok or Instagram or whatever else, and you go look at the comments of people that are advertising for debt review, there's a whole bunch of people just going, I was scammed. This whole thing's a scam. Don't trust it. I've seen death threats and a few other bits and bobs. And I've done a bit of advertising in the debt review industry, and I've had death threats on the videos. And is it a scam?
Well, no, it's not a scam. That's the honest answer. It's really not a scam. You get debt counselors that does really good work, tries their best, cares about their clients, and we would like to consider ourselves as one of those particular debt counselors. And then you get other debt counselors. I guess it's the same in any industry. You know, if you get really good people, cares about their clients, does their job properly, is well informed, is well trained, and it delivers amazing results. And then you have the other ones that's just really money hungry and chases the fees, deliver bad services. And, you know, there's a lot of places you can deliver bad services, but in the data review industry, it shouldn't be one of them because essentially you handle a client's finances. And that is such a big part of family. If you screw up his finances, if you provide the wrong proposals, if you're not acting in your client's best interest, the social consequences of that could be absolutely dire. So
you can end up with someone homeless. Or they lose their car, or they lose their house. They can't pay school fees or whatever it is.
I mean, I guess part of the problem is that these scrupulous debt counselors, they want the money. They want the money, so they'll provide proposals lower than it should be, payments proposal being what you actually pay back, what is just a lot lower than it should be. They're not being honest to the client because they're so hungry to actually get the client that they try and fool him in proposing an installment that's much lower than is actually needed, to get the client. And then you get other debt counselors like us that doesn't do that, that has been doing this for probably 10 plus years and know exactly what is needed to make the proposal solve, know exactly what is required, and is honestly there to actually just help the client. Cars, houses, if you lose these things, it can have a dire impact. So we like to pride ourselves, and we know there's a lot of bad things going on in the industry, but we like to pride ourselves on the fact that we deliver good, honest work. We're not afraid to face our clients. If you call us, you reach us, we talk to you. We want to help the people. That's what we believe in building a company. It has to have that model. If you don't want to help your clients, you can't expect your clients not to stick around.
Absolutely.
So it's terrible out there. So I guess be careful when you choose your debt counselors.
Delano, you both actually are lawyers, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So can you explain a bit, just in terms of, because from my understanding of debt review, and I'm going to play a little dumb because I know more than the average bear, but I've got Yogi Bears and more than an average bear. But I know a little bit more. But what is debt review, and why does it take a lawyer to do it?
Well, there's a court-mandated process that goes with it. And that process is very, very well regulated and all of that. The court order is very, very important to the process. But like Chris said, it all starts by the debt counsel. If they don't do their job correctly, then it all falls down when it comes to the legal part of it, because you can't restructure an account to an amount that's so low that it's just ridiculous and the magistrate won't even consider it. Other than that, there's also the tribunal aspect of it. So if you don't send it to court, you can send it to the National Consumer Tribunal, and they can maybe look into it and grant an order that way. But that order is very important because that order solidifies all of the agreements that has been gone on by the debt counsel and the credit providers to lower the installments and to lower the interest rates. It's to make it a solid piece until the end of debt review, whereby you will get your clearance certificate.
So it's a binding legal contract gets done in court.
Correct, yes.
So it's not just like I come to you and say, hey, I don't have enough money to pay my bills, and you do whatever you do, lower the pricing or whatever, or lower the installments, and then it's just we sign a contract.
Yes, no, definitely not like that. It goes through the proper channels, whether it's the consumer tribunal or the court process. It gets a proper court order at the end of the process that states that this will be the amount that you pay for X however long until you're finished with the review with the lowered installments and all of that. That's why the court process is so important. It keeps everything honest, and it keeps everybody right along the right track for the duration of the process.
And what's the point of the court order? I mean, like, cool, I get it, and yes, it's safety, and it's a very sort of big umbrella to almost say like, oh, it protects you, but protects you from what?
No, it protects you from people going back on their word, basically. Credit providers or the consumers just suddenly state that now we can't afford this, or we don't want this anymore, that anymore. If you get the acceptance letters from the credit providers for these lower installments, you'll see a lot of the time they have intricate little cascades on there where if some accounts gets paid up, these ones get more money and all of that. It gives clarity to everybody there. And it solidifies it for the duration. That's basically it protects the consumer, but it also protects the credit provider. It's a joint venture there where it'll make the terms and conditions clear for both parties for the duration of the process until it's finished.
It's kind of also like an end to the process. The order is the final step. So it's kind of an end to the process. So it also prevents applications from staying in limbo and have no solid understanding of really what's happening. So the court order also ends the process, basically.
I'm going to adjust your mic quickly. I am noticing that I'm going to suckle with your audio.
Short.
We'll do that. Yeah, a little shorter than some of the others we've heard. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, cool. And then we'll keep it about a fist, roughly. If you got that, then we're good. Cool. So in terms of protecting the consumer, and this is, I think, more the people that are going to watch this are going to be more worried about themselves as like a consumer. What are they being? I mean, you said they're being protected from people going back on their words. Like, I'm assuming in the past you would do some kind of, say, before debt review was a thing, you'd talk to you always see this advice on Facebook. You know, hey guys, I'm struggling to pay my debt. How can I pay my debts? And they go, phone your creditors. Phone them up. Phone FNB or Standard Bank or whoever you owe money to, and tell them that you can't afford it, and then make a deal.
Yes, but those deals a lot of the time only benefit the credit provider, because if you go into those deals, they might lower the installment for you or give you a payment holiday, but that interest still keeps running at that high rates for the duration of that where you pay that lower installment. So in a lot of the times your balance can increase. If you go through this process, which is legally recognized, they have the power between the parties to agree to a lower interest rate. And that's where the consumers really see the benefit of this, where interest rates gets reduced from like 28% to like 0.5% or in some cases and all of that. So that's what you want to look out for. So they might be amicable and give you a payment holiday, but that payment holiday at the end of the day, you might see it as a benefit to you, but it really only benefits them because that interest keeps running in the background all the time.
So it effectively stops the compounding interest.
Correct, yes.
Or at least lowers that whole thing. Because what's it like what do they call it? The 9th wonder or the 10th wonder of the world is compound interest.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
It's like how Warren Buffett and all these guys get rich, it's compound interest, that's the win.
That's the key. I mean, the banks, you can imagine the banks don't really like debt review that much.
Sure.
You take out a loan, they expect a certain payment, you're supposed to pay back the capital, and there's always interest on the capital.
Which is fair.
Which is fair. It's
to a point.
It's how the world works.
Yeah.
But the interest on it is according to me most of the time not fair.
Yes.
I mean,
Are you talking about like 24%?
I'm talking about, and that's not even the that's not even. I mean, that's kind of the norm, really. It's not the exception. That's the norm.
Yeah.
I mean, going from 16 to 24%, 22%, that's the norm, and that's a lot of interest to pay if you work it out. So the banks don't really like debt review that much. Some of them, rightfully so. Although we call it a mutual client, because in the end of the day, you are still a person. You're a person that has debts to pay, you've got your bills to pay, you have to buy groceries, you've got a family to take care of, and life has gotten expensive, you know?
Life has gotten very expensive.
I mean, I remember when I was young, I went to the shop, my mom gave me the R5 and I bought a bread and I still got change, you know?
You're giving your age away.
So, yeah, didn't always buy bread. So I mean, it's gotten expensive. A R5 is not a R5 today. No. I mean, a R5 today, you can't. What can you buy with a R5? But 20 years ago, you could buy bread and still get change.
Yes.
So I mean, the interest rates is really high, and you're a person. You have needs. You have a salary, and you can only do so much with that salary.
Yeah.
I think most South Africans are really struggling. Yeah. I mean. Let's face it, our salaries didn't keep track with inflation.
Yeah, definitely not.
Our buying power is so much less. So in the end of the day, what are you to do? Who can afford to pay 24% interest in the loans?
Yeah.
And that's one of the, I have to give our government credit where that is concerned. They actually saw that there's a real need for debt review. Section 86 of the Credit Act makes it very clear, and they stipulated exactly what debt review is, how the process is supposed to work. So debt review is not a scam.
Yeah.
It's a law. It's a binding process in law, created in the National Credit Act of under 86, and where you have other people really peddling a lot of scams.
Yeah.
The reason debt review exists is because it's in our law.
Yeah.
Where other things are not in our law. If someone comes to you with, they're going to write a letter or some wonderful magical solution to your money problems, what power does it have? Because it doesn't exist. It's not in our law.
Well, a really good lawyer can overturn an agreement.
Yes, if he's got the facts. But I mean, you're looking at quite a couple of thousands of rands in terms of legal cost. And if a guy phones you and say, listen, pay me 3,000 rand, I'll sort out your financial problems for you. It sounds a bit too good to be true, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, you still have to survive in the end of the day.
Yeah.
A R5 is not a R5 anymore. And for people who are struggling with the debt, is experiencing financial difficulty or likely to experience financial difficulty, they should, as early as possible, seek the help of a debt counselor, because it can make your life more affordable.
Yeah.
And you don't realize the kind of stress it puts on you. I mean,
for sure.
Wondering about money problems 24/7. I know I have a problem. That's all I think about, you know? So I assume it's like that for many. Many people like to hide their head in the sand, and sometimes it's too late, because there is help out there.
Yeah.
You know? As long as you're careful, the debt counselor you choose, because a fairy tale can very easily end up being a nightmare.
Yeah. So how do you, I mean, outside of putting your hands up and going, we're good, you know, how do you find a good debt review company? I mean, look, I'm going to put a link in this video that will lead to a website, and people can fill their names in, and then that will get to you guys, you know. So we've got that set up already, but outside of that, what does the government put in place to protect the consumer from unscrupulous companies that do, or at least say they do, debt review? Well,
it's a scary thought, because you, as a consumer that is not informed about these things, how are you supposed to know? So it's a very scary thought. I would say there's a couple of things you can do to safeguard yourself. Firstly, the NCR is a database of registered debt counselors. So if you get the the debt counselor's name and NCR number, you can look them up to see that they actually are registered and in good standing. Because there has been many debt counselors that has been removed. Secondly, people always think bigger is better.
Yes.
And that is not the case, bigger might be, there's a possibility that they've figured out more stuff, in terms of how to operate, but it doesn't say they care more about you as a client.
Yeah.
It doesn't say they're going to give you the attention and assess your needs like maybe a smaller guy would. So I would say there's two things. Bigger is not necessarily better. Make sure your debt counselor is registered, and personal experience. We have many clients that left us because someone else, a different debt counselor, phoned them and said, "Look, you're paying for 3,000 rand towards your debt now. We can give you 2,500." Sure. It's not 2-3 months, and that client's back is in tears because these creditors didn't accept the proposal. It's too little. So there's no magic way to get out of your debt. You still have to pay it, but and I mean sometimes too good to be true is too good to be true. Yeah. But maybe Delano has some more thoughts. But I would say the most important thing is to make sure they're registered.
Yes.
And don't just step into something. Do your research. Talk to your debt counselor. Make sure they understand what they're doing. If there's some questions they can't answer, then it's a red flag that goes up.
Yeah, for sure.
If they try and sell you too many dreams, it's probably a red flag. Be honest with them. There's a possibility that there might be counters in the process. You don't want to find out later in the process that you need to pay 500 rand more. These things need to properly be communicated. So if they don't give you all the information, I would say maybe keep on searching. But being registered is at least they're in good standing with the NCR.
Yeah, a big step. One. Yeah.
Maybe Delano has some more thoughts of how to protect yourself.
Yes, if in the consultation they don't give you all the facts, then I would say not go with them.
What facts are we looking for?
So one of the main things is that from the proclamation by the NCR now, if you apply for debt review, that status will remain in your name. Ask them about that. If they try and talk around a status or whatever, then you know that they don't want to talk about that because that's one of the unfortunate drawbacks thereof. But it needs to be mentioned to the consumer as soon as possible so they know exactly what they're getting into.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you as you go.
No problem.
What is that status?
So that status will basically reflect on your credit report. Then they flag you on the DHS system, and that status will then remain there that you applied for debt review until such time that a 17.2 reject is sent out, or you have completed the process and a 17.2 is accepted has been sent out.
What's the implications?
So if a 17.2, it means you can't get more credit. That's the short of it.
Yes.
It means you won't be able to get more credit. The credit providers will see that you're flagged as applied for debt review.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important. Ask them about that. If they are not forthcoming with the information regarding that, then you're going to have a problem. Then you might not be a person you want to be at.
Yeah.
So look at the information that they provide. That's a very, very important thing, and especially with regards to the specific drawbacks. This flag on the name is one of the big drawbacks thereof, and ask them about the term. If they can confidently state to you your debt review will take 4 years and 3 months, then I would suggest run. Because you won't be able to know the term in the beginning. The term only comes out later after the certificates of balance has been received, all the balances has been certified by the credit providers.
Yeah.
If they give you solid information on the term, you're going to end up being disappointed. And I would. It's not a good way to approach this process.
So on day one, you get hold of, or you've filled in a form or something, and these guys phone you and they go, "Don't worry, I'm going to get you out of debt in 4 years and 2 months, run a country mile."
No, that's definitely not the way to go.
Is there a max on this, like on debt review? Is there a max period that it can go over?
It's basically, there's a rule of thumb for about 5 years. It's not really a max period, but it's generally accepted in the industry. There's certain circumstances that you can get a clearance certificate, like if you only have a long-term credit agreement left, like a home loan. So a lot of the time what will happen is, let's say the consumer has 5 credit providers, one of them is home loan.
Yes.
4 of them will settle in 5 years, and then he'll get his clearance certificate and his name will be cleared. The home loan will be left, but you can't reasonably expect a home loan that would have taken 30 years to pay off now to be finished in 5 years.
Right.
You can't expect that.
Yeah.
So
not at a reasonable amount.
No.
They're going to try to take 20 years worth of fund into 5 years.
Yeah, that won't work.
That pushes your price up 4 times.
So as a general rule of thumb, we normally look at about around 5 years to get the consumers in the process, and then finish off at least all of the smaller credit providers and have then only the home loan left, which on the basis of that they can get a clearance certificate. So.
And then probably a good debt counselor will upfront tell you what the fees are.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to bring it up.
No, a good debt counselor will tell you what the fees are.
So how do the fees and debt review work?
So if they don't tell you this up front, it's probably a good thing.
So there's insider information we're getting here.
It's important because
Yeah,
it can
absolutely.
very easily be missed, especially with consumers that's not that educated. And let's face it, we work in the data review industry. We are expert at data review and data review industry, but most people aren't. So the NCR regulates debt counseling. They also they basically regulate the whole credit industry, but especially in terms of debt counseling. So they've put out a guideline as to how the fees should work.
Yeah.
Granted, just a guideline, but there's good reasons for this guideline. So the NCR said that your fees are equal to the client's installment, meaning first installment. So after you've now done your assessment and you see this client used to pay 6,000 Rand, he can only afford, for instance, 3,000 Rand. Your fees are supposed to be equal to his first installment, which is 3,000 Rand.
Right.
3,000 Rand plus VAT if you're VAT registered, but 3,000 Rand. The reasons for it is because the creditors kind of expect payment within the third month. So if that debt counselor charges you 6,000 Rand, which I feel is very immoral to do, when your payment is 3,000 Rand, then it would mean that the credit provider won't get money soon enough, and that puts your whole debt review in jeopardy. They're going to come back and say, where's my money? And they're going to say, okay, well, if you don't pay me, I'm going to terminate the agreement. So that's the first fee that we look at, is the debt counseling fee that goes to the debt counseling. And then the NCR also issued a guideline in terms of the legal fees. So because obviously Delano over here needs to take the application to court, and attorneys are expensive. But
he has to go and be Denny Crane.
but the good thing about data review is because it's equal to your distribution, you will be able to afford. So for instance, a guy earning installment is 3,000 Rand. Will be able to get his court order granted by Delano for 3,000 Rand because the legal fee is equal to what the restructuring is. A guy earning 6,000 Rand, the fees will be for restructuring, it would be 6,000 Rand, and not earning is when his distribution is 6,000 Rand. His restructuring would be 6,000 Rand for the debt counseling, and also 6,000 Rand in terms of for legal.
So that's what the first 2 months then.
Yes, correct.
So month 1 goes to the debt counselor, and then month 2 goes to the lawyer.
Basically, yes.
And then month 3 goes to
the credit provider.
To the credit. Okay.
So you cannot see where the problem comes in.
Yes.
If your distribution is 3,000 Rand and this guy charges you 6,000 Rand and he charges you 6,000 Rand for legal, it means that the credit provider is only going to get money in like month 5.
Right.
They're not going to be very on board with the process if they only get money in month 5. So I mean, it's very important that the fees is done correctly, and also you're informed correctly of the fees. And if it doesn't work like that, then you're probably getting cheated somewhere.
Yes.
So that's basically the fees, and the insurer also capped it. So if you're a single person, meaning you're married out of community of property or not being married, your fees are capped, both legal and restructuring. The fees are capped at 8,000 Rand.
Right.
If you're joint, meaning married in community of property, the fees are capped at 9,000 Rand.
Okay.
So you don't have to be worried if you're currently paying 60,000 Rand for your debt, and now under debt review you'll be paying 30,000 Rand. Your restructuring won't be 30,000 Rand. Your legal won't be 30,000 Rand because it's capped at 9 or 8 depending on your marital status. So
I suppose this also stops people from, or at least unscrupulous companies from hunting the big guys, or literally taking advantage of people and the fees and whatnot.
Well, I don't think it really stops them because they don't play with the rules. Guys like us that cares about our clients, that sees the reason into the fees as why it is like that wants to help the client through the process and get him out of debt, walk that possibly most of the time 5-year journey with him to the end. We play by the rules because we want to stay around. We want our clients to be around for 5 years or however long it needs to be. Those guys don't care about it. They take the fees, they do a terrible job, and whoops, whoops, 5 months later, you're knocking on carte blanche's door for saying, listen, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
So there's really people that does a good job out there that cares about their clients, and then you get the rest that don't care about it.
Yeah.
And it's usually the rest that don't care about it that also don't play by the rules. So it's very possible that they've got a different fee structure that they work with.
So you said it has that fee structure been like written into law, or is it a suggested guideline? Or like,
It's a guideline at this stage. And also, on that note as well, the attorney's fees is currently not really stated there. That's just how we do it.
right?
That's how we charge our attorney's fees equal to restructuring to ensure that the credit providers get money in month 3.
Yeah.
In those guidelines that the NCR provided, they say basically the attorney and the debt counsel is supposed to negotiate a fee that's beneficial to the consumer and all of the stuff. But there's no concrete amount given, which also opens the door for very high attorney's fees on these applications. And you can think that sometimes it's very ridiculous because, like Chris said, the credit providers are expecting something at least by month 3. If they don't start getting money,
yeah, I would. If I'm going, okay, cool, I'm losing my interest.
Yes.
Can I at least get some of my capital back soon?
No, if
Pretty much, yeah.
no, that's how it goes.
So even though it's not attorneys' fees are regulated by the Law Society. But if you think about it, that's what's out there. That's what the NCR tells you what to do with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Also, you don't actually feel the fees going off. And that's why it's very easy to miss these little things. Because while you apply for debt review, you basically have a period where creditors are not expecting payment.
Yes.
They're expecting you to pay the fees because it's a legal process. It's how it works. You pay your fees in the 2 months.
Yeah.
And then after that, we expect payment. So you don't actually feel it go out of your pocket because that money, actually less than that money, would have gone, more than that money that you're now paying for your fees, would have gone that month to your creditor. So you're saving there already. So as soon as you sign up, you get a bit of relief.
Yeah. It's not like you're now paying back the creditor plus you having to pay a guy.
That payment that would have gone to the creditor is now going to the debt counsel and attorney's fees.
Sure.
And if you were paying maybe 10,000 Rand and your new installment under debt review is 5,000 Rand, you'll be paying that 5,000 Rand.
Yes.
You won't be paying that 10 anymore.
Sure. That's why that is the relief that
that's the immediate relief
brings.
you feel, and it goes what you would have paid for your creditor. So it's you don't physically go open your wallet, pay for it,
for sure.
And that's where you feel it. So if you're not aware of the fees and how it works, it's very easy to miss it.
Yeah.
Because you're not physically paying it.
Yeah. Delano, who qualifies? Because surely not everybody qualifies for debt review.
That's a tricky one. Funny enough, you get this Section 8610 letter that goes out. Let's say you don't pay your debt. The credit providers are obliged to send you this letter to say, listen, you must go see a debt counselor and or make arrangement to pay this monies and all of this stuff. That's a part of the start point of the collection procedure. But now the problem we're seeing a lot in the industry is that when it gets to that point, it's a lot of the times a little bit too late for the consumers to actually apply, because at that stage they might not have paid for 3 or 4 months already. Legal action might have been taken on some accounts, which then is obliged to be excluded from the process and all of that.
Yeah.
So the best advice I can give with this is if you foresee any financial difficulties, let's say your job spoke with you and they said, listen, we're going to cut your salary, or there's going to be layoffs, or whatever the case may be. Go as quick as you can, because you don't want to wait until it's too late. There's too many arrears. There's legal action taken on accounts, all of that. You want this process to start and to initiate before you hit that very, very, very difficult times. So as to who qualifies, anybody that's starting to feel the pinch, even if you're starting to feel the pinch just from living costs, you will most probably qualify. That's what the assessment for the debt counsel is for.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start feeling it, go. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you're 3, 4, 5, 6 months in arrears, because then you're going to have a problem. Then those accounts might not even be included.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what the Act says. Is experiencing financial difficulty, or is going to see in the foreseeable future experience financial difficulty.
Okay.
So
so the whole of South Africa.
Yes.
Basically, there's a list of requirements. You have to be South African.
Everyone except like Cyril and those young people.
Yeah, they don't need it.
Those guys don't need it. They'll be fine.
He's got enough money on his mattress.
In his couch. Yeah. You've mentioned assessment. So what is the assessment? What's what are you assessing? Obviously finances.
Yes.
But what are you looking at? Is it a list? Do you have to, I don't know, give all your expenses and details and whatnot?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So the debt counsel would basically look at your income, your deductions on your payslip, other deductions that there might be, then your budget, and then they'll also have a look at your contractual installment that you paid, and then they will take all of those factors into account and then reduce the payments by an amount that is acceptable to the credit providers and also yourself. Right. What I've seen a lot these days is a lot of consumers go in and they get the reduced amount and they say, no, but I want it reduced more. The problem is that you can't reduce it to a point where the amounts would be so ridiculous that the credit providers won't accept it. Because then you're going to end up with counters in any case and all of that stuff. And even if they end up cancelling the process, then that flag remains on their name and they still won't be able to get more debt. Yeah. So it's better to approach this with open eyes and realistically, and then do the assessment properly. Give them all of your proper information. Go through your budget before you do this. Determine what your expenses are. If you can sit with a bank statement, even better. Yeah. Determine all of your expenses. Have the debt counsel do a proper assessment and see at what figure they arrive at. But that would be, the assessment just contains all of your financials from start, income to expenditure, and your contractual installments.
Now, back when debt review started, it was cowboy land. No one knew what was going on. Banks didn't know what was going on. Debt counselors. And I mean, that is 2005 is the National Credit Act. We've come a long way since then. Now the process has been smoothed out. We've been doing this for over 20 years. The creditors know what they want. The debt counselor should know what the creditor wants. And if you experience, you work together. It's not it shouldn't be it's not necessary where it's a thing about getting one over on the creditors. Because let's face it, they have a client, we have a client, so we call it our mutual client. Yes. And at the end of the day, the bank wants their money back, but we want to also help the client get to the other side and become debt free. So, it has to be realistic.
For sure. Well, I mean, you willingly went into that debt.
Correct. Yeah.
So I went and got a credit card and then used that credit card and, whatever else. And then I knew there's interest. Sure, I didn't maybe like the fact that it was 18 or 22 or whatever % interest, but you still made a choice.
Correct.
At the end of the day, even if you're sitting and you got a family member dying or whatever else, and you feel like you don't have a choice, you still make a choice.
No, that's true. But
so there's got to be a quid pro quo.
That's true.
There's no point in getting a whole bunch of debt and then going, now I want to pay 10 cents every month on it.
You could have afforded it.
Yeah.
Who of us thought that, our salaries would stay the same for the past 4 years? Who of us thought that inflation would go up so dramatically? Who would have thought that at some point we were 20 Rand for $1, These are things consumers can't foresee. And the banks were very eager to give them that credit, Yes. Please, here's a card, use it. I mean, back in the day, they even sent credit cards through the post and say, congratulations, you've been pre-approved for 20,000 Rand.
I got a bunch of those back in the day, yeah.
I mean, those consumers used it. And now today, South Africans are struggling.
Yeah. Correct,
and what is there to help them? Who's going to help them with the financials? We're going to help them.
Yeah.
There is something to help these people, a legitimate legal process that we can help them with if they just apply. If they just say, listen, I'm struggling. I'm going to phone these guys. Let's see what they can do for me. And I mean, most of the time we're looking at installments, maybe just over half of what you used to pay in terms of installments and interest, probably, looking at maybe for 24% interest, maybe a 6 or 7% interest.
That makes a massive difference.
It makes a massive difference. So these guys are out there. They use the credit. Yes, they need to pay it back. But who could have foreseen that, the economy is going to be this way and that consumers are struggling out there, Unfortunately, there is something that they can do. There is help out there. There's something that can lighten their load. They just need to give us a call.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Sounds like an advert.
We'll clip it and we'll make it an advert. There are, if you're browsing on Facebook, you see loads of adverts for we can help you with your debt and that kind of stuff. But then every now and again you see an advert that says, I don't know what went bing there. You see an advert that says, don't do debt review. We have another solution that is better, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, right? And so I did a little digging into it, and then sort of the word sequestration pops its head up and bankruptcy pops its head up. What's the difference? Is sequestration better than, well, maybe better is the wrong answer, or the wrong question, but what's the differences between them?
Between bankruptcy and sequestration.
Well, sequestration and debt review, bankruptcy and debt review. Yeah.
Well, sequestration is a very extreme process. That's basically when they sell your assets off and pay your creditors with it, and then you have to go through a process of rehabilitation. So that's kind of, I always regard it as kind of a last resort kind of method.
Right.
That's when you can't pay the people and they basically come and pay them for you with your stuff that you own,
Okay, cool. So they're taking your teaspoons and they're flogging everything you have.
It's kind of like, we're tired now of waiting for your money. You get friendly sequestration where you apply to be sequestrated yourself, and then you get the one where they basically say, it's too much of a problem, we need to sequestrate you because we need your money. And then they're looking at, they might accept a lesser payment in terms of how much money you owe, but for that period of time you'll be sequestrated and you have to go through a rehabilitation process with your being already now sequestrated, being in that position where everything is sold. Now debt review can kind of prevent that from happening if you act quick enough.
Prevent
sequestration.
Okay, and prevent your stuff from being sold to pay the debts.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
If you wake up early enough and you go to a debt counselor and say, listen, I cannot afford these payments that I'm supposed to pay. The interest is killing me. The payments is killing me. Can you help me? They can work out a proposal to your credit provider saying, listen, Mr. X can only afford this much. He can, the interest, because we want it to solve. At the end of the day, debt review, the aim of the game is to get you debt free. Yeah. To have you with no debt at all. So to get you debt free, there's usually a period that they look at. It's usually 5 years. I know you asked Delano earlier. It's usually 5 years, can be more, can be less, depending on your circumstances. But they want to have all your debt extinguished in that period. So they can work a proposal. Usually, like if you used to pay 6,000 Rand towards your debt, then maybe you can work something out closer to 3,000 Rand, something that you can actually afford.
Sure.
If they lower the interest, the reason for that being is because they wanted to solve both the debt counselor and the bank within a 5-year period.
Yeah.
So what they do is they bring down the interest, they lower the installment, they bring down the interest so you can be debt free within that period that's proposed.
But now, if you in that period, can your car or your house be repossessed or taken away from you if you're paying or whatever? I mean,
not if Delano does his job right.
Okay, cool. So it's on Delano.
Yes. So that's where the court order comes in. That's why we take it to court or the tribunal and get the order. So this is a part
of that protection you were talking about.
Yes, yeah. So if the acceptance has been issued by the credit provider, everybody's happy with the terms and conditions, we get the court order, then the consumer can basically rest easy. They must just ensure they make their payments every month to the debt counselor. The PDA will distribute it. Everybody will be happy. If any problems comes up, because he'll be surprised to see how many times the credit providers phone the consumer and say, listen, you haven't made payment because somebody woke up there, but it's different departments. They don't know it's going through debt review.
Right.
Consumers must just phone in, and then the debt counselor sorts it out for them and make sure that everybody's properly informed. The order gets resent. Everything gets served on everybody, so they know. But yeah.
So you guys handle the creditors completely.
Correct, yes.
The client doesn't have to at all.
Yes.
The creditors does take chances.
Yes.
And that's something all consumers needs to be aware of.
Sure.
Creditors take chances. They are not supposed to make contact with you because you're under debt review. They're supposed to make contact with the debt counselor. But it often so happens where a creditor takes a chance.
Completely by mistake.
Completely by mistake. Obviously. Creditors
it's one of those trainees that's under supervision.
Yes, correct. Exactly. And but you wouldn't imagine, being the debt counselor, the stress that kind of thing puts on a consumer.
Yeah.
Suddenly he thinks he's covered, and a collection agent or someone calls this guy that's not supposed to be calling this guy. It's a scary world out there. You have we spoke about so many scams out there, so many debt counselors not doing their job properly, and this guy thinks he's covered, and then suddenly a debt collector calls him or someone, and he gets the scare of a lifetime.
Yeah.
because he thought everything was covered. He's paying his debts, So they do take chances. They do like to scare, the consumers. Then credit providers are not the biggest fans of debt review. They lose out on money.
Yeah, for sure.
It's beneficial to the consumer. It's not necessarily beneficial to them.
Yeah.
But being said, we need to work together. In the end of the day, this consumer is struggling and the bank wants their money back. So a lot of the times, debt review is the best choice. But they don't get the money they would have got if they could have continued to charge you, at 24% interest. They get a lot less money back.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for the banks for playing by the rules and following the process to get this consumer debt free.
Yeah.
But they're not always perfect. They sometimes call credit providers. I mean, one bank recently contacted some of our consumers and asked them, listen, are you sure you want to go on the debt review?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point, it's, I feel it's very unfair. The consumer has rights that's in the National Credit Act that's to his benefit.
Sure.
So, I mean, they aren't perfect. People shouldn't get a scare. If you do get a phone call, you do get an email, refer it to your debt counselor and find out what's going on before, stressing too much about
So you
it.
just tell them, I'm under debt review, talk to Delano.
Exactly.
Or whoever the debt counselor is at least.
Because the debt counselor should be able to provide you with statements.
Sure.
So you can see your money is being distributed. You can see how your money is being distributed, how much is getting distributed. In the process, there should be acceptance letters or proposals being sent out to the credit providers. So I mean, before just thinking, oh my word, I've been scammed, just contact your debt counselor and find out exactly what the story is, because banks sometimes do take chances. They're not supposed to phone you. They're not supposed to harass you about this thing. If sometimes there's even a court order in place and the consumer still gets scared, and understandably so.
Yeah.
But contact your debt counselor and find out if everything's okay.
Delano, you mentioned so distributions, and then you mentioned PDA. What does public displays of affection have to do with debt review?
Okay. So your PDA is your payment distribution agent. So the debt counselor never actually receives the monies themselves. The consumers pay the money every month to the PDA, and then they distribute the monies according to the proposal that the debt counselor does send out.
When you say pay it to, how's that done?
Well, it's done normally via debit order. So it makes your life a lot easier. It's one debit order goes off instead of 7 or 8 different smaller ones.
Oh, cool.
So, the one debit order goes off, the payment distribution agent gets it, and they are also required to be registered by the NCR. So it might be another question for the consumers to ask if they want to know, is this a legit debt counselor or not? Ask them who's the PDA you're working with. And then they can check on the NCR's website, check if they are registered or not. There's about, I think, 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. There's not a lot of them in South Africa. So they'll be readily available there to be found on the internet, and then you can see.
They have to be registered. It's quite the registration requirements is also kind of hectic. So there's not a lot of them. And the reason for them is because in the past there's been too many debt counselors running away with the people's money. They were supposed to make the distributions, and boom, the debt counselor's gone. So it's another thing that the NCR actually brought in to protect the consumer. Now all distributions has to go through the distribution payment agency, and the consumer don't have to worry that the debt counselor is going to run away with his money.
So it puts another level of accountability on.
Correct. Yes.
So it's like, hold on, you're the one restructuring my money, but this is the guy that's going to distribute the money. It's not the same person.
No.
Okay.
So you've got the debt counselor, then you've got probably a system they work on that links with the PDA, the public display of affection. I haven't heard that one before. It's good. And they distribute the money. It's a level of extra security, but you always have to be careful. There's a possibility it might just be an outright scam to get your money or your details, and they don't even use a payment distribution agency. A real debt counselor would use a payment distribution. They're not allowed to. They have to.
No.
At the end of the process, maybe the first question we can go before that is, I suckle, I lose my job. Well, maybe not lose my job. I get that lowered in salary, like you said, because I think you have to be employed.
Correct.
Okay, so you have to be employed to get debt free. But
the reason for that is because it has to be realistic that you're actually going to pay back the money.
So my boss cut my salary in half because of COVID or whatever the story, with the next thing that's going to come along. I end up in debt review. Great. 2 years in, I get a job. It's triple my current salary. I'm balling again. Can I get out of it? Number one. Then number two would be, what's the end? Because I think your answers are going to be similar on those. Like, what's the normal end of the 5 years? What happens?
Well, look, now after the new Janse van Vier en Vierhout's case law, if you have a court order on your name or an NCT order on your name, the only way to get out would be to get a clearance certificate, meaning that all of your debt except for long-term credit agreements must be paid up.
Okay.
So basically, if you're earning triple your salary again, everything is going good and well. I would say pump as much as you can into the smaller credit agreements. If you have a bond, you don't have to worry about that. Keep the payment as it is under debt review until such time that the clearance has been issued. But pump all of the money you can into the smaller ones, get them paid off, and you approach your debt counsellor to get a clearance certificate.
So you can add money whenever you want to.
Let's say you get a bonus over December. You can even contact your debt counsellor then and say to him, listen, just for this month, I would like to pay a little bit extra. They can organize that for you as well. Over December as well, a lot of people get paid on different dates. Approach your debt counsellor, say, listen, I want my debit order moved for December only to this date. Just inform them in time. But yeah, to get out, then that would be the best way to go about it. Pay up all the debt. If there's no court order in your name, there is such a process whereby you can have yourself declared no longer over indebted. A court can be approached, the relevant facts can be levied before the court, and the court will make a judgment if you are still over indebted or not. In most cases where we take those matters to court, the order is granted to declare the consumer no longer over indebted, because we only take the case to court if the consumer's circumstances warrants it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's also another thing maybe to touch on a little bit, a lot of these get out of debt review scams has been popping up where you pay them like 10 or 12 grand or whatever, and they're going to apparently clear your name, and then they also disappear with the money and that kind of thing. But that's a whole other side to the coin.
I had one guy like that phone me, these random, but these people that just phone you, and he's like, yeah, you want to get out of debt. He works for the NCR. But, I mean, the NCR is not calling people to get them out of debt. But they claim to work for the NCR. I mean, he went as far as saying, listen, I guarantee you, no, we'll get you out of debt. And I'm like, but how, if I'm not in that position? No, it doesn't matter. I'll guarantee to get you.
Just give me 10 grand and I promise you it's going to happen.
Exactly. And it's a very worrying trend that seems to be, become more prevalent. So, I mean, you've got some guys, but to get such an order, you have to there's requirements.
Correct.
If you don't fit those requirements, you cannot get an order. The court looks at the application that's been brought, it looks at the requirements is there. If you fit the requirements, and then it can grant you an order of declaring you not over indebted.
Yeah.
So a guy that comes along guaranteeing you an order, just pay me the money, I guarantee you I'm going to get you out of debt review. It's probably not going to happen.
No.
We've had plenty of our clients being fooled like that.
Yeah.
Then they come back afterwards. They say, listen, I paid this guy 15,000 rand.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on. You know, and it's a terrible thing. That client didn't even qualify to get out of debt.
Yeah.
So the normal way to get out of debt is to finish the process. The debt counselor will then issue you a clearance certificate, and the clearance certificate costs you nothing. It's not supposed to cost you anything, because a lot of people...
He says, it's not supposed to cost you anything.
It's not supposed to cost... That debt counselor looked after you. He's supposed to issue you with the clearance certificate. And then you have... and there's a lot of people that charges for those clearance certificates.
Crazy.
I mean, and... it's terrible. These people are consumers that finish the process, and now they're getting charged extra money. People under debt review are getting charged extra money for services that should be for free. It's just not right. So after you finish the process, the debt counselor is supposed to issue the clearance certificate. It's not a court order. It's a certificate to say you've paid up all your debt. That certificate then goes to the credit bureaus, and they clear your name within 21 days. So that's the simple.
So that's
process.
that flag being
correct.
you're no longer
The
flagged.
flag being removed, and telling everyone that this guy basically has no more debt. That's probably the best position you can be in.
Yeah.
Better than someone that never entered.
And then all the banks will be sniffing around again.
Exactly. Someone once told me, a person under debt review is actually better they require them as a better candidate for a job and stuff, because this is a person that saw he was in financial difficulty. He then went to seek help instead of someone that knows he's in financial difficulty and never seeks help.
Yeah.
You know? So that if you look at it, that is responsibility.
Yeah, for sure.
You've made the debt, take responsibility for it. So yeah, it's the clearance certificate. If the process goes as it's supposed to go, if you find yourself in a better position, there's a possibility that Delano can do a not over indebted application if you fit the requirements, obviously. And that's basically the two ways you can get out of debt review. There's no other way.
Yeah, and once you're out of debt review, you do your debt review, you're finished. I'll use Frikkie as an example. Frikkie's my imaginary guy that I use as an example in my podcast. But Frikkie's now gone through his debt review. He's paid his 4 years and 8 months because he was putting an extra 100 rand every month into the loans or whatever else. He's now clear. The flag's gone. All that's cool. And he now wants to go and buy a car, for instance. Is there still
no?
This oak was in debt review, so watch out, Mr. Bank, don't loan him money.
If the flag is gone, it's gone.
So it looks as if it never happened.
Correct, yes. The only place where that might appear, it's what I, from experience from the other day, what I noted, is some of the credit providers might track it in their internal systems.
Right.
But which is their right, but it's not on your credit report anymore. So let's say you had a loan by Westbank and it's paid off under debt review.
Go to ABSA.
Well, that's definitely an option, but if Westbank denies you, then go to ABSA. Yes, but the point is, then ABSA Westbank would probably track it under your name internally.
No, which is fair. I mean, they collect data,
correct,
so that makes sense.
But to be honest, that consumer that just finished debt review is probably the best consumer that they will ever get in their life.
Why?
This is someone that just finished paying up all their debt, shown that he was committed for your example of Frikkie, 4 years and 8 month period. And he actually finished paying up his debt. So they know this person
knows how to pay.
Debt. He has no debt.
And he's got a good track record of paying as well.
So if he wants to apply for that loan, he should be able to afford it. More than someone that still has a bunch of accounts left to pay, had to make debt to pay off the other debt.
Yes.
And is still now stuck in debt. So, I mean, if you've got no debt and you've got one account, it's a pretty safe bet. They should give you that loan.
For sure. Stonebridge Debt Management. You haven't always been under that name, and you're in transition right now. I mean, everything's up in the air. Why Stonebridge? What's the story there? And then why are you changing your name, Ray?
So, Liberty Life didn't like us much. We used to be Liberty 42. We've been Liberty 42 since 2014. That was the name given by the previous owners. I got on board a couple of years ago. But the name was Liberty 42. Liberty meaning freedom, 42 apparently the age when it was started.
Okay.
There was a clash. Liberty sounds a lot like Liberty Life, Liberty Loans, Liberty whatever. Yes. And we constantly got bad reviews from Liberty saying this Liberty Life hasn't paid out my dad's polis, even though he's been dead for 45 years. And we don't want to be associated.
And you getting a 1-star review.
We're getting exactly.
Not you. Okay.
It's I have to clear that. Yes, there was a big confusion between us and Liberty Life, or any one of the Liberty group, basically having a lot of franchises. So we thought it's best to change it.
For sure.
Make a break. We want to deliver decent service.
Yeah.
We want to care about our clients, and we want to be recognized as someone who cares about our clients. So because there's a possibility of that confusion, we decided to make it Stonebridge.
Nice.
Stonebridge being bridge to get over your debt, stone being solid. We're not planning on going anywhere.
Yes.
We want to be around for till kingdom comes.
Nice.
We want to have happy clients. We want to have them say good things about us. We want them to testify for our good service, and that we actually help them.
Yes,
we've spoke about the clearance certificate. We've got boxes and boxes of clearance certificates to show.
Yeah.
That we've helped all these people through this process, and we want to be distinguished for that. We want to be someone that can say we're proud of these people. They really did help me. I don't have anything bad to say. So we thought of going with Stonebridge. Stone being a solid thing, gonna be around for a long while, and the bridge getting out to the other side. For some reason in my head I see that bridge as 5 years. Yes. Over 5 years, it's gonna take you 5 years to get over that bridge, and then you'll be fine. For some reason that's always pops up in my mind. But so we're changing over to Stonebridge.
Nice.
It's already been done, name's been registered. We're getting the website done and everything now, so we'll still be we'll have a page redirecting it to the real website for our current clients, because we care about them. We don't want to just have a name change and then
then they think you've disappeared or something.
So we're very excited.
Fantastic.
It's always nice to rebrand, and it almost feels like now we've been doing this for 10 years, and now we're gonna put in everything that we've learned into the new company. It feels, it's very exciting stuff for us.
It's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I think we've covered everything, which is exactly what I wanted to do.
So did you be debt review?
Well, I already am in debt review, so but it's an interesting from my side. And I'm not in debt review with your guys' company. I'm with another company did it before I met you guys. But it's an interesting process. And like you say, when you find a company that does it correctly, and the company I'm with for the most part, I believe, has done everything correctly and whatever. There are a few things that maybe weren't explained perfectly, but that can get put down to human error. It does happen. But at the end of the day, it's a great thing, because I was forced into it. So I'm fighting a weird legal battle with a bank, and I was forced into it, and then it is what it is, So, but it helped me, because like you say, it freed up, I think it was 42%.
It helped you cope.
Yeah, it lowered my repayments by 42%. I got into debt review, and 4 or 5 months later I lost my job. I still managed to pay it, and somehow I scuttled it and made it work. And it's been a helping hand, because geez, if I had lost my job on the old numbers,
how do you do that?
That'd be the end.
How do you do that? And we do have people that lose their jobs. There's certain things you can do, but you can only do that much.
Yes.
But can you imagine you weren't under debt review?
Yeah. No, I would have been stuffed.
And it hasn't been easy. You had to be disciplined.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you're close to done, aren't you? So I've been paying in. So I've just cleared my two smallest ones. Responsible consumers.
Yeah. So my wife and myself, we were great payers. This is the dumb thing, right? So I've always paid my debt and everything. So when we went into the process, the legal battle with the car that I had and whatever else, that forced me into it. And when one of my banks phoned me when the debt review was in process and said, "Why are you going into debt review? You have never missed a payment.
They would do it because
you've had a credit card with us. My bank, I had a credit card with them, for 15 years, never missed a payment. And they still phone me and say, "Why are you going into debt review? Is everything okay?"
We're gonna get less money now.
Well, no, they're gonna get less money, but I kind of hope they were looking in, but they maybe weren't. But yeah, it's interesting having that thing set in stone. And I think, like you said, the responsibility or the way people are going to come out of it is great, because I've learned to live without the credit card. So the credit card is nice to have when you're doing something and you're like, you check that lacquer pair of shoes, or it's Valentine's Day and you're like, I know I should be just buying some KFC and going home and giving my wife a flower that I picked out the garden, as opposed to, well, let's go to a fancy restaurant and blow $1,200. I'll pay it off. I can't do that. So for me, I've always been good with my debt and with my money, and I feel that responsibility towards, like I said, when I made a decision to get into debt, I want to pay that off.
Because you were responsible. And you can see it working for you. You were responsible in making your payments. You were responsible in choosing a debt counselor.
Yeah.
You did the right thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now you can see you're almost debt free. Can you imagine you
Yeah.
didn't do that? You
Yeah.
know? Your debt would be sky high. You
Yeah.
mentioned they would come in and take your stuff.
They would, yeah.
You know, you would.
Yeah.
I mean, but debt review actually helped you.
Yeah.
And I
I
mean,
think we've got a year and 8 months left because I'm just over 2 years in. But like when I checked the other day, now that when I've paid off, everything not falls to pieces, but everything gets bounced up and down and the things and all the projections are off. But I think I'll be done. If I don't put any more money in, I'll be done in a month short of 4 years. And my plan, I've got more money going in soon anyway. So like as I earn a commission, is a percentage of my commissions that I pay it from work and all that kind of nonsense. And yeah, so I'm hoping to be done in the next 10 to 12 months. That's my plan.
I remember you told me about a credit actually for one of these get out of debt review companies.
Yes.
Calling you and you're saying, but why would I want to get out of debt review? How am I supposed to afford double the payment if I get out of debt review? And and my interest is gonna go back to 24% or whatever it was. You know.
Well, I'm paying 1.6, I think, across all of my. So I only had small loans. I didn't have any car loans or anything like that outside of the car that I was fighting with the bank. But yeah, it was all small stuff: credit card, personal loan, overdraft.
You see,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
small accounts is usually more difficult.
Yeah,
it's more difficult, and the interest on those things are quite high.
Yes, yeah.
So
I had one that was 23, was the highest, and that's insane.
No, it's crazy.
And you look at it. I mean, I remember going into a bank in Somerset West. I had a business years back and did a lot of cash, and so I had to go into the bank and put the cash, into the bank, and I made friends with one of the managers there. And every day you walk in, because I was every day, I was like dropping 10 grand off kind of thing, and this guy got to know me and hey Des. And the one day I went and asked him, I said, bro, tell me about what's better. Like, you're the bank guy and we're becoming friendlier. So give me some real advice. What's better, credit card or overdraft? And he kind of looked at me and he was checking to see if the bank manager was eyeballing him. And he looked around and he said, bro, you'll never pay an overdraft off, ever. He goes, the retention on an overdraft. He says, credit cards get paid off because there's a mindset about a credit card. But an overdraft, he reckons, like, most of their clients never pay an overdraft off. And I'm like, what?
And if you think about it, if you're considering getting an overdraft, you must be rather consider debt review. Because now you're getting money that does not really belong to you. You get money that belongs
well, you
to
get
the
your
bank.
salary and you may be still in the minus.
Yeah.
So if you've reached that point where you're considering an overdraft, rather maybe consider debt review. That will actually help you pay off your debt with the money you have instead of going to borrow money just to keep alive and probably going deeper and deeper into that hole. So, but I mean, I remember you told me that was cool.
Look, I'm happy paying 1.5% or 1.6%. I don't mind.
It's beneficial.
It
really helps you. If
you
get the right guy and he doesn't screw you over, it's helpful. It's going to help you.
Well, guys, we are an hour and 5 minutes. That went like that. Thank you so much for coming through, and we'll chat again, or maybe we'll get you guys on again at some point, or we'll do a live or something. I think the topic is interesting, so I want to play with like TikTok live and the YouTube. I think it's got a live function as well. So maybe we set up a day, we get you guys in, and we go live and answer people's questions or something.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
That would be fun.
Nice, no, it was cool. It was nice chatting to you.
Lekker.
Yeah.
Very nice, cool.
Lekker.
Nice.
Thank you so much, and go pair.